Islamic finance, we look at Islamic banking across the world, we look at Takaful around the world, we look at Islamic capital markets around the world, we look at Islamic microfinance around the world, then we close with Islamic financial technology. So the pre-Islamic Arab, what is their knowledge of finance? They have an economic system. They're majorly merchants. It's a very simple economy, you would say, and they have trading which is based on agreement where common, and they have such products, such finance product as Bay al-Musawwama, which has to do with bargaining, Bay al-Muzayada, which has to do with auctioning. They have Bay al-Amana, which has to do with trust sales. They have resale with profits, that's Bay al-Murabaha. They have Bay al-Tawliya, which has to do with resale at cost. And they have Bay al-Wadi'a, which is resale at loss or below costs. These are basically what the pre-Islamic Arab practice. However, there are huge elements of riba and garar in their practice. Riba being interest in whatever form, while garar being speculation excessively. So we come to the Islamic focus on finance. The Islamic focus on finance has to look at the eradication of riba institution and practice. That is what the Prophet ﷺ began to institute in Islam. Eradication of garar transactions, institutionalization of fair and equitable markets, no monopoly, no fraud, standardization of money and commodity exchanges, Islamization of many business organizations and institutions, Mudaraba, Musharaka, Salam, Muzara, sharecropping and partnership in agriculture, Musaka, and in irrigation. Then we begin to see new organizations and institutions are introduced, such as the institution of Zakah, the institution of Waqf, and the institution of Bayt al-Mal. These are institutions that Islam came along with and put into financing. In a lot of literature, people have tried to expunge this, but they still exist because these are the realities that happens at the time. It was not called Islamic finance at that moment, nor was it called Islamic banking at that moment. They all form part of the knowledge of what we refer to as public financing institutions. Now, around the world, there have been various attempts at Islamic finance. The story that is more told was the story of Egypt of 25th July 1963 to February 1967. The Midgram Islamic Savings Bank started in Egypt by El Nagar, which is based on German savings banks model. The purpose is to mobilize the idle savings of the majority of the Muslim with the Sharia, within the Sharia, and to provide halal return on their savings as well. This started in rural Egypt. But I mean, if you check the literature, you will actually find materials that are actually more dated than that. You find that in 1950, actually, in Pakistan, there are Pierce landowner deposits. They are found without interest. Interest reward, credit was advanced to other poor landowners for agricultural improvement with Islamic principle in mind. So we saw all this in the literature that points at efforts that have been made in Pakistan to come up with Islamic finance. Now, beyond that, there is a story that is often not told and which has to be echoed around the world. And that is the story of Nigeria. Nigeria's attempt at Islamic banking started as far back as 1952 into 1967, where the Muslim Bank West Africa was actually instituted and incorporated and had operation on number 6 William Street in Lagos. And the bank operated from William Street in Lagos, and its license was revoked by the Obafemi Awolowo government of Western Nigeria. So these are various historical attempts that you can find from Africa, from Pakistan, as well as from Nigeria, which is still sub-Saharan Africa. Now, I'm trying to show you a snapshot on Islamic assets 2018 to 2019. And so we can be able to see what the Islamic assets are still concentrated on the GCC region, about 42.3%, and Asia 28.2%. When you look at Islamic banking jurisdiction, okay, and the systematic importance is 12 jurisdictions that you have. 91% of Islamic banking assets are concentrated in jurisdiction where Islamic finance is of systemic importance. However, interestingly, 80% of sukuk outstanding are concentrated in jurisdiction where Islamic finance is of systemic importance. Now, I'm trying to show you a breakdown, which is what I have on the screen right now. I'm trying to show you a breakdown. Sorry, somebody's playing with my slide. Okay, interesting. Now, I'm trying to show you a breakdown of global Islamic finance by sector, stroke region. In the Asia region, you have the assets, and you have 266.1 there, and sukuk outstanding 323.2, Islamic fund assets 42.3, takaful contribution 4.1, and that accounts for a total of 617.6, which is 28.2%. GCC has 42.3%. Middle East and the North Africa ex-GCC is 25.1%. North Africa excluding North Africa has 0.8%. And others have 3.5%. So data of this is actually called from the data of sukuk outstanding and Islamic fund for full year 2018, while for Islamic banking as at June 2018 first half, and for takaful is at the end of 2017. Now these are interesting data, and let us begin to look at them. You will see that takaful penetration outside of the GCC and MENA is dismissal. Even in Asia, at 4.1%. I know that the figure for Africa, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, is about 1.3%. Even general insurance penetration, not to talk of takaful. Takaful is much, much smaller. But I'll go into takaful later, so I will not want to belabor this slide as I go ahead. Now, this is the sectoral composition of Islamic finance in 2019. Islamic banking constitutes 71.7% of the total Islamic finance industry, while sukuk constitutes 24.2% of the total industry. Islamic funds constitute 2.8%, and takaful constitute 1.3%. This is the global figure as of 2009 of the total Islamic industry development, and in per sector, when you look at the composite sector, 2019. So these are very recent figures. So you will see that there are a huge opportunity in takaful, there are huge opportunities in Islamic funds, and there are huge opportunities in takaful, in sukuk rather. This shows area where there is a lot of opportunity and we need to continually grow the pie. Now, this Islamic banking share in total assets, and I've tried to put in a few countries here. Okay? The share of the total country assets, nation by nation around the world, Iran, which has gone fully Islamic finance, Sudan, that has gone fully Islamic finance, are actually exceptional at almost near 100%. Saudi Arabia still have a mix of Islamic finance and non-Islamic finance organization. Same for Kuwait, Malaysia, Qatar, UAE, Bangladesh, Djibouti, Jordan, Palestinian, Bahrain, Pakistan, Oman, Afghanistan, and by the time you get to Kenya, from Kenya downward onto Sri Lanka, you will discover that the numbers becomes dismissal. The number becomes dismissal. Completely, they become dismissal because you can't even find a situation where you can't even find a situation where they just represent like a dot in the entire scheme of things. Now, the dark red color has indicated those that satisfy the criterion for having more than 15% share of Islamic banking. But you will begin to see how this pans out as we look at the assets in more details. Thank you, Brother Khalil. I'm sorry for this break. I think the connectivity challenge started from my end. And trying to reconnect, and I just found out I couldn't unmute myself. I'm sorry about that. Quite sorry.
It's okay, sir. No problem.
All right. Can you still see my slide?
No, you have to share it again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I hope it is clear now.
Yes, now slides are visible.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Brother Khalid. I'm quite grateful for this. And we look at the share of Islamic banking assets in 2018. And we try to look at the jurisdictions where these assets are concentrated. You have 9.8% in the United Arab Emirates, 10.8% in Malaysia, 6.3% in Kuwait, Qatar with 6.2%, Turkey with 2.6%, Bangladesh with 1.9%, Indonesia with 1.9%, Sudan with 0.7%, Bahrain 0.7%, Pakistan with 1.3%, Egypt 0.6%, Jordan 0.7%, Oman 0.7%, Brunei 0.5%, others 1.7%, Iran 32.1%, Saudi Arabia 2.20%. If I don't mention, if a country's name is not mentioned, you form part of the others and you are part of the 1.7%. So you can see how the assets are being. What do you deduce from this? You deduce that we have not made significant effort to grow Islamic banking assets out of the Muslim world. This is not a good mark. What we must do is to see a way to grow the Islamic assets into Muslim minority countries. And it has to be deliberate. It has to be deliberate. And these are the things we need to do. Now, I try to look at the Islamic asset growth between 2008 to 2018. And I start with the chart on the left screen that start looking at the growth. If you look at the growth, really, you will see that there have been consistent growths in the last 10 years. Consistency, there have been growths in the last 10 years. The growth have been there and they've been very consistent. What we then need to do is to have a leap. However, in 2018, there is a dip, there's a slight dip in 2018. Now, it will dip further when you look at what happened in 2020. It will not only be the Islamic finance world that takes the hit, but entire finance around the world will take a hit and they will come down in 2020. So we expect to see a downward slope of the curve in 2020, and by the time we'll be having this discussion in 2021, we will be able to measure and show you what the depth is. Two things will majorly account for this. Around the world, government will be looking for funds to shock the gap that has been created by the pandemic. Unfortunately, so might not be an alternative because it is too slow. The process is tedious and slow, and as such, Sharia scholars will need to take another look at the process of Shiku issuance. The system has to be faster, more flexible, and be able to respond to financial challenges faster than it is today. I try to do a comparison of the aggregate growth of Islamic banking. I have another slide after this that looks at it from a different angle because this slide looks busy. But if you look at the first slide, What I try to look at is I try to look at the growth into a projection. And I try to look at the financial growth. I look at the asset growth. I look at the financial growth. And I look at the deposit growth. I then superimpose that on the aggregate financing growth rate in the analyzed countries. I picked that growth and I did the aggregate Islamic banking assets growth rates year in year for countries up to the first quarter of 2018. Now, on the fourth chart, what you have is the aggregate deposit and deposit growth rates in analyzed countries. And I picked that from 2013 to 2018. What are the issues? Islamic banking around the world, challenges and opportunities. Let me start with the opportunities. Opportunities pretend that we need to introduce innovative methods and instruments to aid effective management of liquidity. This is begging for answer. We will look for innovative products and methods and instruments which will help us to manage liquidity. Sukuk-based trading platform is needed that fits with the existing market practice and provide the advantage of reduced cost and better flexibility as compared to traditional practice. If the conventional system wants to go to the markets today to issue a treasury bills, you don't need a quarter of the time that you need for Sukuk. So we need the system to be more automated and flexible, and access to market and time to market should be faster. We need uniform Sharia standard. We need to look at financial inclusion. Financial inclusion among majority Muslim country is still very poor. We need to look at social inclusion. Social inclusion is very, very important. Anybody that is financially excluded is also socially excluded. We need to also look at our product development and product engineering, which seems to be mimicking conventional practices without actually putting our head to work in developing products for the market. In terms of the challenge, where lack of developed interbank market for Islamic instruments. In most of the countries, you don't have interbank market for Islamic instruments. We also have shortage of tradable instruments with low capital risk and predictable return. We have difficulty in international money markets. We have high transaction cost of some financial instruments like commodity mudaraba and sukuk ijara. They are actually expensive when you look at their cost of transaction. We need trained workforce, especially in Africa. We have poor branch network. We also have less social impact on the community. Wherever you find the Islamic financial institution, they should have more impact on the community. Now, having done a summary on Islamic banking, I want to quickly move into Takaful. And what I present you is the global Takaful contribution 2011 to 2017, so that you can see the growth plan of the Takaful industry from 15.3 billion US dollar to 18.6 to 19.7. When you look at this growth, you are more of an arithmetical growth. They are more of an arithmetical growth. There are no quantum jumps. In fact, in 2013, you had a dip. When you compare 2013 to 2012, there's a dip. So what you have there are arithmetical growth. The progression is not beautiful enough. So what we need to have there is to have quantum leaps. And quantum leaps will be required when people in the Takaful industry come up with products that address the need of the people rather than copying traditional insurance. Now, this is Takaful contribution, region and sector. In GCC, contribution by key region, 11.7. MENA countries, excluding GCC, 10.3. Southeast Asia Pacific, 3.9. South Asia, 0.2. Sub-Saharan Africa, 0.01. Now, I've tried to also do a breakdown of country for country of where the contribution has come from. And you can see it on the slides to the right that shows the Takaful contribution total sector premium percentage in 2017. Now, this is Takaful by region per operator. Number of Takaful operator and window globally as of 2018. Takaful, you have 7%, which is 21 operators, 7%. General Takaful, 107 operators, which is 35%. Family Takaful, 57, which is 18%. Composite, 45, which is 15%. And window, 76, which is 25%. The growth area for Takaful seems to be between the window and the general Takaful. And this is an area where we need to watch. Number of Takaful operator per region. Sub-Sahara 3%, GCC 27%, MENA 26%, Southeast Asia 30%, South Asia 14%. Now, Takaful in Sub-Saharan Africa, operation is still insignificant. In Sub-Saharan Africa, with the contribution estimated at $10.2 million in 2017, mainly coming from Kenya, Nigeria, and Zambia. The region represents the greatest growth potential, with more than 50% of its population as Muslims. If you come to look at Nigeria, with over 100 million Muslims, you have just 5 Takaful companies, namely Jais Takaful PLC, Naful Insurance PLC Limited, Salam Takaful Insurance Company Limited, African Alliance Insurance PLC, and Cornerstone Halal Takaful. So we need more enlightenment, more deepening of Takaful operation across the Muslim world. Again, Takaful operator in Sub-Saharan Africa needs to start looking at micro Takaful. And investors who are keen in investing in Takaful in Sub-Saharan Africa to start looking at micro Takaful as a growth area where a lot of investment can be put with a huge reward. Now, I want to look at the Islamic capital market. As we all know, this is an integral part of the Islamic financial system, and they trade majorly in financial assets that are Sharia compliant. And it's a market for people, companies, and government with surplus funds, which is transferred to the people and governments who have shortage of funds. So that's a market where funds are transferred from the demand, from the supply area to the demand area. It acts as a financial intermediary by channeling money from surplus to deficit units. The backbone of the Islamic capital market is Sharia principles, and Islamic capital market as a parallel market to the conventional capital market for capital seekers and providers. The Islamic capital market attracts funds from domestic as well as international sources. For a lot of the countries in Sub-Saharan African market, this is just emerging. And it's interesting that what is driving this are infrastructural sukuk. Now, this is Islamic capital market sukuk issuance. And I've done a comparative analysis between 2005 and 2018. And what we have is that between 2016 and 2018, we saw a jump. We saw a jump, an upward jump. And so you see them in billions of dollars, and we've seen a jump. We've also seen a recline. It went up gradually between 2011 to 2014. We saw a massive growth. Then we saw a decline between 2015 and 2018. Financial analysts have been actually looking for a deepening a collapse or a crash of the financial market between 2017 and 2018. We didn't find any up to 2019. I think we've seen the shaking of the financial market within those time until the pandemic. The pandemic just came in to show us that the system is weak, but we've seen the weakness from 2015. Now, these are the classes of Sukuk issuance between 2005 and 2018. Sovereign Sukuk issuance by jurisdiction 2018. Saudi Arabia issued Sukuk worth 31.94%, Indonesia 13.38%, Turkey 7.45%, Oman 4.38%, Bahrain 3.36%, UAE 5.31%, Nigeria 0.51%, Qatar 0.38%, Brunei 0.26%, Morocco 0.15%, Bangladesh 0.03%, Gambia 0.03%, and Malaysia 32.82%. I mean, when you look at the issuance for Sukuk again, you see the jurisdiction and you see the play. And this has been the trend of Sukuk issuance to your right of your screen between 2005 to 2018. So I try to put the corporate Sukuk issuance to the sovereign Sukuk issuance side by side so we can see the growth around the world. After I also do a 10-year historical performance, 2009 to 2019, for you to see month out how Sukuk issuance performance has been rated by all the global rating bodies. Particularly, I've picked S&P Global, and I've also picked the S&P Router Global, the Bloomberg, and my source here is the Bloomberg. So I have a 10 years horizontal horizon from January 2009 to January 2019 for this analysis. What is interesting here is that Sharia index indicate higher return than its conventional benchmark at 11.11% compared to 10.29%. And this continues to be very promising. Even in Nigeria today, your investment in Sukuk is far much better than your investment in treasury bills. Now, I don't want to round up the Islamic capital market without looking at the Islamic equities. And I look at the equity market and look at its extreme volatility in 2018. Like I said, a weak return across the globe globally, and market was looking at 12.5% globally, with a drop in the FTSE All World Index, the biggest percentage decline to date since GFC in 2008. Now, comparing the Islamic indices with similar conventional indices, the Islamic equity market did relatively better in 2018. However, analyzing the return on Islamic equity indices indicates that conventional indices, as well as the total return over 3 years and 5 years horizon, while there was a considerable drop in return in 2018. Both the conventional and Islamic, the latter performed comparatively better across all indicators. Now, this is the Islamic fund assets by asset class in 2018. Where did the money go to around the world? Money markets, 25.3, commodity, 14.5, fixed income and Sukuk, 9.49, mixed allocation, 7.3, real estate, 0.95, other alternatives, specialty, 0.04, and equity, 42.4. So there is still a huge opportunity across real estate, mixed allocation, fixed income Sukuk, as well as in the commodity trading. So globally, it's estimated that out of 1.6 million, so I'm looking at Islamic microfinancing now. I'm looking at Islamic microfinancing. Globally, it is estimated that out of the 1.6 billion Muslims in the world, 14% use banks. And there are 650 million Muslims living on less than $2 a day. Further advancing Islamic finance, Islamic microfinance, expanding formal banking, takaful option for those whose religion precludes them from conventional banking will yield huge financial inclusion benefits. When you look at Islamic microfinancing, the world must go back to Pakistan. Let me say it again. If you look at Islamic microfinancing, the way it is run around the world today, we must all go back to Pakistan if we're sincere. This is the outreach of Islamic microfinance by country 2007. If you look at this number, you will know that it is dismissal. It is dismissal. When you look at our total number of people in the world that live below the poverty line and the activities of Islamic microfinancing in the world, these numbers are dismissal. So what should we do? If you look at Islamic microfinancing and we want to really fight poverty, then we have to go and study what AlHuda is doing in Pakistan. This is the world's largest interest-free microfinance organization in the world. The world must go to Pakistan to learn what Islamic microfinance is. To help the poor around the world, we must quickly replicate the progress made by Dr. Muhammad of AlHuda and his team around the world. I employ each and every one of us to please copy from the slide the website linkage of AlHuda and see what this wonderful brother is doing to the world and how he's making everybody proud on the way he's approaching Islamic microfinancing. This is one of the several models in the world. His model is the Qard al-Hassan model. He has come to prove that it's a sustainable model where there are good people, and the simplicity for which it has been operated has been to the amazement of everybody around the world. You will not go to any business school in the world to learn without anybody introducing to you the AlHuda model of Islamic microfinancing. We need to all look at it, study it, and find a way to implement it in various countries around the world. I agree, there are other Islamic-style microfinance institutions in different parts of the world that are providing services, but this has been of huge impact to all of us. Apparently, when I met Dr. Saqib in Kenya 5 years ago, I met him and I asked him to put an autograph on one of the books I bought at the conference, and I was quite impressed with him. Very simple gentleman. Now, let me quickly look at Islamic financial technology. As we all know, fintech is the new phase of revolution in finance across the world, both in conventional finance and in Islamic finance. Our own pace at embracing technology for the development of our financial institution has been relatively slow. We've seen effort here and there, from UAE to Dubai to Bahrain, but Sharia scholars need to take a caution from this. Two things. Sharia scholars must understand that innovation must precede regulation. We cannot siphon innovation with regulation. If we don't allow people to innovate, we will have nothing to even regulate on in the future. So there's a need for us to continually encourage people to study the model of Islamic finance, to provide the education on Islamic finance, and for technological people to come into it and see how we can do things better. And this will give us the necessary leapfrogging that we require in Islamic finance. So what are the major areas that the Islamic fintech has focused on in the year? We found 375 news items on Islamic fintech in 2017. Most areas covered are Islamic fintech, blockchain, cryptocurrency, tech disruption, as well as digital services. These are the areas that we need to quickly embrace and see how we can advance it forward and see how it can enable us and assist us to grow the total pie. Thank you very much for having me this afternoon. And I will be around the corner here to, inshallah, take questions as they occur in this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jubril, for your great presentation and an insight information about Islamic banking and finance industry. We have some questions from the participants. I will allow one by one. So first, Mr. Hussein Aman, please ask your question. Mr. Hussein Aman.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I have a question regarding new product development. Most of time to develop new product in Islamic perspective, we use the conventional as benchmark. This may have some shortcoming. So what doctor advise, to follow from the Islamic point of view, how we can develop new products, which means finance products or else deposit products. My second question regarding innovation regulation. That doctor, when presenting the issue, not to kill innovation regulation, Sharia scholars may argue against some compliant issues. What do you mean by innovation regulation? How Sharia scholars kill innovation? The last question is social inclusion.
I'm having a problem
Most
listening
of
to the last.
time, when finance as any perspective, my last question is regarding social inclusion. How we can say, most of time, from the beginning of this new phenomena, we said always social inclusion. How is most, I'm from Ethiopians. Till today, there are some social exclusion in Africans. So how we can solve this social inclusion, and for how many times we say or we call this term social inclusion, since we are entertained in business, since Islamic finance is as one part of a business, when we stop the term social inclusion and how we can solve this social exclusion, especially found in Africans. Thank you, doctor.
Thank you very much. Do we want to take the question together, or I answer this question, then we go into the next one? How do we do it? Okay, maybe I go ahead and provide answer to this question.
Okay.
And, yes, and okay. As coming in, I'll then take it.
The next question is from Mr. Fairana.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, doctor, for your useful and very, very insightful information. My question is regarding the development in the non-Muslim countries. What are the challenges and what we can do to overcome those challenges? Especially, for example, I live in Hong Kong, and it is very difficult to convince people about Islamic banking and how mostly we have sukuk here, but that's it, and it is not being promoted. So what we can do to promote these kind of products here? Thank you.
Yes, the next question is from Mr. Isa Hamadu. Doctor, we should take all the questions at once.
Yeah, so that we can take every question, then we go into the answers.
Okay.
But if you like it, I mean, we will do it like that.
Thank you. Mr. Isa, please ask your question. Okay, he's away, I think so. Then the next one is Taslim Kita. Please ask your question.
Alaikum wa rahmatullah. The informative presentation. I would like to know what could be your advice for a country like Sierra Leone where there is no presence of Islamic finance.
Dear Mr. Taslim Keita, please, your voice is not.
In Islamic finance in Sierra Leone. Your
voice is not clear.
Hello, Doctor, you getting me now?
Yeah, I get your question. You want to know what my advice is going to be for you for a country like to have the presence of Islamic finance.
Of course, that's my question. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. The next, Mr. Sheikh Kareem, please ask your question. Brother Sheikh Kareem.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, brother. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Jubril. It's a wonderful presentation full of statistics. And
thank you, sir.
I just wanted to ask you something. The success, you can throw some more light on the success story of microfinance in Pakistan. This is one. And number two is how you, in most of the cases, what happens, the Islamic banks followed the product pattern of conventional banks and molded it to Islamic. And that's the reason the acceptability and the difference between riba and the profit was mixed up. So hence, what I should suggest that those banks or institutions must imbibe into fintech, those technology who are really Islamic technology. I have worked 30 years in Islamic Bank, in Sharjah Islamic Bank, and thereafter I joined Millennium Information Solutions. They have the true Islamic products, which is the Islamic by itself and certified by ISRA or as per IOFI guidelines. So what I want to say is, it's not that copying the conventional products to Islamic. We should have truly Islamic products, and then only if you don't believe in Islamic banking, you cannot enhance the products of Islamic banking. This is my complaint. Very much presentation.
I agree with you absolutely, brother. You're very correct. Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Could you be enough to share the name off your corporation on the chat box so that we can also pick it up, please.
Okay, okay, fine. I will do it, and we are also connected with AlHuda. Our company name is Millennium. I will also get in touch with you if I have your email address and all. We'll get in touch with you.
Please do, please do.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, the last one, Mr. Isa, if you are here, please ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa
barakatuh.
Okay, this is Isa Manu from Cameroon.
Thank
you for your presentation. My question is regarding Islamic fintech. I would like to know about the view Islamic law regarding Islamic fintech. I would like to understand it very clear, please. Thank you very much.
We have 8 comments, 7 of them, and 1 being.
Hello.
Okay.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Dr. Jubril, yes, Dr. Jubril, please carry on. Sorry for disturbance.
Okay, fine. So I will go ahead with trying to provide my own insights into the question that have been asked. Let me say from that I do not possess all the knowledge on this question. I'm only giving my own position on it, and people who know better than me, if they should also make opportunity to also make comment on them, inshallah. Now, talking about new product development, what do you advise on new product development? My advice has always been one thing, and that is what I've carried around the world in the last 10 years. We must look at the markets and develop products that solve the problem in markets. What we have been doing, both in the banking space, as well as in the takafu space, in the fintech space, and other space, is that we have been carrying solution around looking for problems. This is not going to help us. So somebody will bring a solution from Malaysia and bring it into Africa. It's not the same market. There are no two markets that are identical. There are no two markets that are identical. You have to study your markets. What are the challenges in my markets? Then what solution do I give to these markets? Going to every market and already made solution, it's not going to work. You have to study what the solution is, what the problem is, then you give him the solution. As what the brother asks what I mean by preceding regulation. You see, this is what we find in various jurisdictions. When you're developing a product, be it in fintech or you're doing a product engineering, the first thing you do is that you see a Sharia scholar telling you that it's not in compliance. And so everything is killed in the mind of the innovator. You're not even seeing the full fledged of the products and say, can this product come up? And let's begin to look at these products to see how do we make it to be compliant with kill from inception. If you go around all the Islamic financial institutions in the world, you'll find a number of products like that that have been killed even before the CDD. So we need to look at that again. The brother asked regarding social inclusion, how do we achieve that? Specifically about Africa. It's not only Africa, it's around the world. Anybody that is not financially included is also socially excluded because he does not have access to credit, he does not have access to finance, he does not have access to even relate with people among his peers. So what do we need to do? We need to make sure that we are able to create access for these people. And let us not forget that these people sometimes are Muslims, sometimes are not Muslims, sometimes are Christians, sometimes are pagan, irrespective of what they are. Islamic finance is not just for Muslims, it's for mankind. It's for the entire humanity. And it is our responsibility to make sure that these people are included, both financially and socially. So how do we do this? We start from getting people to get access to the financial services, from registration. Some rural poor do not even have the requirements that you continue to ask them for before you open an account for them. Why don't we look at this class of people and begin to lower down on the number of requirements that we ask them? I'll give you an instance. I'm from there, and I'm a Nigerian. I'm a very proud Nigerian. And somebody wants to go to a bank in Nigeria to go an Islamic bank in Nigeria to go and open an account. The first thing is that structure are too intimidating for the poor. So I take a mechanic who wants to go and open an account. We all know the way a mechanic dress. So he will say to himself, do I need to go to my house, remove my uniform as a mechanic, wear socks, take my bath, look different, then I go to the bank? He will not do that. Himself. The mechanic will never be included. So what do we need to do? We need to bring the bank closer to these people. There is a model that we can learn from our brothers here, and they are here from Kenya. The Equity Bank of Kenya. The Equity Bank of Kenya takes banking to the people, not the people coming to the bank. This is a way that we need to look at banking from a different angle. And we can include our own. I was in Ethiopia. I'm happy the brother who asked this question is from Ethiopia. I was in Ethiopia, and I looked at the Mercato market. The Mercato market is the largest open market in Africa. And what you find in terms of transaction in the Mercato market is huge cash, no electronic transaction, cash for cash. Huge cash transaction is what I found at the Mercato market in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa. And I asked the question, why aren't these people using banks? The first question I asked was, what percentage of these people are using the bank? And they said to me, less than 15%. Why are these people using banks? We could see clearly the case of exclusion, difficulty in registration, unnecessary monitoring that goes into it. The fourth question is about development in non-Muslim countries. How do we promote the products? Yes, brother, you see, it's an Herculean task. And if you ask us in Nigeria, I think we have a lot of examples for you. And we have a lot of cases that we can share with you. Despite our start into Islamic finance in the 1950s, we were not successful until 2011. What happened? The position is mistrust between the Muslim community and the non-Muslim community in Nigeria. That's on one part. On the second part, even within the Muslim community in Nigeria, the scholars have gone ahead to say anything that is banking is haram. So they've created another divide, even within the Muslim community. So we had two challenges to deal with. But what did we do? This is what I advise you to do. Since you have sukuk, begin to hold discussion around your sukuk. Begin to hold education and talk and seminars around Islamic financing. Begin to show the beauty of Islamic finance and the superiority of it against other forms of finance. Have this discussion. Don't just have it in your mind. Have seminars, have discussion, have lectures. Some people should volunteer and go to the universities and teach some courses, seminars for free on Islamic finance. An online platform where you have the promotion of Islamic finance for that particular country. Look at how Islamic financing can address infrastructural issues within the country. This will help you a lot. There could be more. The lists are not exhaustive. The question is, we do not have a president of Islamic finance in Sierra Leone. What do we do? First of all, I must say that the problem of not having an Islamic finance institution in Sierra Leone is a problem of the Nigerians. The dealing of Nigerian Muslims to Sierra Leone and Ghana, they have the responsibility to coordinate as a hub. They have the responsibility to coordinate the larger Muslim population in Ghana and Sierra Leone towards Islamic financing. It is the laziness of those of us who are Muslims, including myself, in Nigeria that is hampering you. So what do? You do not need to go, you do not need to go travel far and wide. Please, let us share communications together. Let us put together a few activities in Sierra Leone, and we will come around to begin to have discussion. But for a start, I employ, get people within Sierra Leone to register for courses with AlHuda for Islamic banking and economics. Begin to take courses with them, and let's begin to do something on the ground. You see, life is about carrot and stick. If you want something to germinate, you have to plant a seed. And planting the seed is what you have to do. A Japanese friend of mine, while I was in Malaysia, asked me, said, when do you plant a tree for timber? And I said to him, I don't know. He said, if you want to plant a tree for timber, you need 20 years. So he asked the question, if you have not planted a tree for timber for 20 years, when is the next best time to plant a tree for timber? And I said to him, I don't know. And he said to me, you plant now. So plant now. Let's begin to do something so that not only in Sierra Leone, in Ghana, and across this sub-Saharan Africa, we can have a huge presence of Islamic finance. This is lacking. Africa, particularly sub-Saharan Africa, does not need aid. When people present us as people that need aid in social media and on websites and in news items, I said, this is not true. I've been to most countries in the world. I've seen poor people. I've seen poor people in Pakistan. I've seen in India. I've seen in England. I've seen in America. There are poor people everywhere in the world. We're not the worst. What we need to do is to start doing something for ourselves. So, brother, let's have those contacts and let's work together and let's see what we can do in Sierra Leone, inshallah, and begin to push this forward. I should share the success story of Islamic microfinance of AlHuda in Pakistan. Now, let me tell you the story that I had from Dr. Saqib himself. He told me, we stayed in the same hotel in Kenya. So at night, I went into his room. After his presentation, I went into his room at night. And I said, I want you to tell me your story.
बस इसका ही है या फिर आप ना मोबाइल पे कर लें ये साला सेशन ज्वाइन और वो आप अपने साथ रखें थोड़ी देर अगर जाना भी चले जाएं क्योंकि कोई पूछ ना ले 5 मिनट ठहर जाएं और बस ये खत्म कर रहे हैं आपने क्वेश्चन और दे दिए वरना भी खत्म हो जाएगा Dr. Jubril, we have live on the Facebook, and from the Facebook we have 2 questions. So I would like to ask those 2 questions. And the first one is from Uganda. That how can a country like Uganda that is still new in Islamic finance readily develop Islamic banking services despite the insufficient skilled manpower? The second question is. It is evident that one of the biggest challenge of Islamic financial institutions is establishing confident and earning the trust of people, or even convincing the Muslim mass to embrace Islamic finance. What are your recommendations in overcoming these challenges?
Okay. Okay. Friends in Islamic banking community. Thank you very much. I got those two questions. Thank you very much. And inshallah, I will deal with them. So Dr. Sakib said to me that he has been in conventional microfinance practice all his life. And when he retired from conventional microfinance, he was sitting in his office. He opened up a small finance office in Pakistan, and a lady came to him. Lady, I can't remember whether he said she's a widow or she's poor. I guess she's a poor lady. I can't remember whether she's a widow or not. He told me the story. So it's an oral translation, some of which I must have forgotten. But the lady came to him and asked for an equivalent of $100 loan. And he put his hand into his pocket and he gave the lady the loan for $100 and he wrote it down. And the lady promised to return the money in 8 months. In 8 months, the lady returned the money to him, and so he wrote it off that, okay, so you have paid me my money back. He signed off the ledger where he had booked the small loan, and he collected this money. It was an interest-free loan. So Dr. Sakib collected the money, and he said he was about to return the money back into his own pockets when the lady said to him, Dr. Sakib, please don't return the money back to your pockets. So he said to me, between his pocket and his hand, he couldn't return the money into his own pockets. Interesting. So he was looking at the lady, and the lady said to him, please find another person like me and give them this $100 because this money has helped me. So he took money out, like the lady said, and gave it to another person for 6 months, and the person returned the money. He gave the money to another person, and he said, this is working. From there, build a full-fledged Qabdul Hassan Islamic microfinance. I read 2 years ago of Pakistan giving them the distribution of the palliative to the people of Pakistan, giving it to AlHuda microfinance bank in Pakistan. I follow the channel. Sometimes I don't speak the local language, but I follow the channel and I watch all the videos on a weekly basis. In Kenya, he now said he wanted to plant a model of AlHuda, and we went to some of the dirtiest ghetto I've ever met in my life, and Dr. Sakib kept going. He kept going with a lot of energy. I became tired. You can see his picture and you can see him now. You know that he's much older than myself, but he kept going. And I asked him when we got back to the hotel, what is driving you? He said, the passion for me to help the poor. If we want to help the poor, we must be sincere. If we want to help the poor, we must learn to keep the camera at home. That's what I can say about it. But please go back to the site. Today they have a school, they have a bank, they have a bank, they have so much. And the transgender and the bisexual in the community, they also have, which are classified as rejects in the community in Pakistan, they have a fund for them for which they take care of them. I go to the AlHuda website every morning before I leave my house. The second question was not actually a question, was a suggestion by our brother on the fintech and what we must do. So I've asked him to drop his details so we can pick it, inshallah, and see how we can work together. The brother asked me, what is the Islamic law regarding fintech? There is no Islamic law that has said you should not use it. None. It is that just have to use it for the benefit of the AlHuda Sharia, for the furtherance of the good of mankind. How can a country like Uganda embrace Islamic finance and develop the needed manpower? I said this earlier. One of the things I want you to look at is this. Please, start with manpower development and start with a good intention. Look at AlHuda Center for Islamic Banking and Economics and related organizations like that. Enroll for their programs. Look out for opportunity where you can partner with such organizations around the world and invite them for seminar talks. Look out for opportunity to develop the capacity of the regulators in Uganda, the Central Bank of Uganda. So we want to give them such capacity development. One of the things we have not done well is that we have not communicated Islamic finance properly. Talk about Islamic finance, people still see hijab rights, people still see things, other negative news that they find in the mainstream media. So it's our responsibility as promoters of Islamic finance in our different countries to educate the regulators, to educate the people in government, to educate the people in the markets, and tell them about the goods that comes with Islamic financing. The brother spoke about confidence in Islamic banking among the Muslim community. Now, let me tell you, we are also grappling with the same thing, even in Nigeria. In my little stay in India, I saw that. I saw an element of that even in Pakistan. Now, what do we need to do? What I've come to realize is that we need to give Islamic finance education to the imam in our Friday mosques. They control the ears and the mind of the people during the khutbah. When you don't give this kind of knowledge to them, they will give a blanket ruling whenever you talk to them about Islamic finance. An imam in Nigeria once asked me, he said to me, I learned you went to waste your time to read a PhD in Islamic finance. I said, I didn't waste my time, I read PhD in Islamic finance. He said, but can you show me where it is written, Islamic finance, in the Quran? It took almost 1.5 years for me to take him through it gradually. Almost 1.5 years for me to educate him gradually on Islamic finance. So we need to put together these imams in our local mosque and educate them about Islamic finance and tell them about the importance of Islamic finance and how it can better not just the life of the Muslims, but the life of everybody in the community. Those are my few answers to the 10th question. I pray I'm able to provide the needed answer within the available time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jubril Salahuden, for your great presentation and for your great question and answer session. Thank you very much again. Thank you very much for the participants who have taken part in this valuable session. If you have any question after this session, you can ask us through email and we will contact with Dr. Jubril Salahuden and we'll get back to you with the proper answers. Thank you very much, all of you. Best of luck. One more thing I would like to announce that we are also arranging some free webinars in upcoming dates. So you can visit us at www.alhudasaib.com to participate in those events as well. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.